Hi guys, I am so excited for today because today I have my Christmas backdrop up, which means it's December, which baffles my mind. I cannot believe that we're in December already. And before anybody asks, I'm sure I'll get questions, am I going to do Vlogmas this year? The answer is actually no. I thought about it, but honestly, we are going to Norway for Christmas and we're gonna be there for we're gonna be traveling for 9 days at the end of the year. And I just want to be able to enjoy myself while I'm there. I don't want to have to worry about videos going up. I want the holidays to not be stressful this year. And so I'm just going to post as much as I feel like posting in December. If there's videos, there's videos. If there's not videos, I'm just having a good time. So I'm going to try to be a little bit just nicer to myself and not stress so much. And I hope that that is okay. And I hope that you guys do the same. Take care of yourself this holidays. Don't stress yourself out if you don't have to. But I'm still excited to be doing a lot of end of the year content because it is really fun for me to reflect, about all the stuff that I've tried this year and all the brands that I've tried and brands I want to try. And just, I love December content from everybody, and so I definitely want to participate, even if I don't post every day. So today we're going to do something that I do every single year, and every year I do a countdown of my best palettes that I've tried in the year. So these are going to be my best palettes of 2021 ranked. But here's the catch. How I usually do these is this video is going to be counting down from my number 15 spot up until number 5. And then for the 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, I'm going to do separate videos with those palettes. And I'm going to do a look with them because I want to give them their time to shine. I want to show my appreciation to those palettes and have it be sort of like a fun little countdown that you guys can sort of play along with and guess along the way which palettes you think are going to be up next, because it's always a good time and you guys seem to really enjoy these videos that I do as well. So these are going to be my number 5 to 15 best palettes of 2021. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the 15th best palette that I tried this year, and these were so hard to rank, so hard. I felt like with the top 5, I was pretty confident in my choices. I was when I was pulling out all of my top palettes, I was this is top 5, this is top 5. I just kind of knew with my favorite palettes of the year, but when it came to these ones, I struggled a little bit. So if you ask me again in 2 weeks to rank these palettes, the rankings might be slightly different, but this is how I feel in this very moment about these palettes. Also, if you want to know what's on my eyes, I'm using the Made by Mitchell Do You Want Some Milk palette. I'm working on a 3-look video with this. I don't know when it's going to be up, but it's coming and I really like this look. I think it turned out very nicely. So let's start on the bottom. We're going to start with the number 15th best palette of 2021. I keep wanting to say 2020. I know, I keep delaying this. Anyway. And spot number 15 goes to the new Melt palette. This was from their Butterfly collection, and I had a really good time with this palette. I love the color story of this. I think the formulas in this palette is really nice, especially the matte. The mattes in this palette, I love them so much, and I love the range in the mattes. There's no matte shade in this palette that I don't like, and I think that they did a really good job with this color story, and there's something so just special about this palette. Just holding this palette, it feels really nice. It's super heavy, it's very nice quality, and just the butterfly theme. Obviously, I'm a sucker for butterflies. I came out with my own butterfly palette this year. I do also have to preface this by saying, of course, none of my collab palettes are in this pile because they would end up on top. Of course, you know. So they're not in this ranking, but if they were, they would obviously be on top. So this is the palette from Melt. This is going to be the number 15th palette of 2021. I'm just going to have the numbers on the screen from now on because I am going to inevitably mess it up. It's just how it's going to be. So let's move on. The next palette here is probably going to surprise all of you, but this palette surprised me so much, and I'm very sad to say that I never did a dedicated video with this. I actually did film one, but it had some sponsored content in it that ended up falling through, so I wasn't able to post my video. But this is the What's Up Beauty Desert Monsoon palette. This palette surprised me so much, and also can I just say that their brushes, which I have been using on and off for a long time now. They're the ones with the pink handles. You probably see me use them in a lot of videos. Their brushes are amazing. They are Rephr quality. They are natural hair brushes, so if you don't like that, they're not for you. But if you want to dip into some natural hair, goat hair brushes, definitely look into those. I mean, this brand, like I said, just surprised me so much. If you haven't seen the palette, it's quite a neutral palette. It only has mostly neutral mattes except for this pink, but the shimmers in this are spectacular. They are so nice. Look at this. It's pretty insane. And for being like the brand's first palette, I was shook. I was blown away, honestly. And I'm so sad I wasn't able to post that video with that palette, but I've used that palette off camera quite a few times this year, and I truly love it. I think it's a beautiful palette, and I'm so happy that they sent me this because I never would have bought this because the color story is just a little bit too neutral for me. But man, am I happy I had this in my collection because it is a beautiful palette. The next spot is going to go to a palette that I really wish I had more time to play with, and this is the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. I love the packaging on this. The more I use this palette, the less annoyed I am with the packaging because it does kind of slide off and it comes into two pieces. But I love this color story. This color story is so interesting. I don't have anything like this. And I think that just because it's so unique, it makes me want to use it more. And the quality, I mean, am I holding it upside down? I think I am. The quality is the beautiful Kaleidos quality that I'm used to. The shimmers in here are stunning. The mattes perform like a dream. I mean, I have no complaints with this palette. I think they did such a good job with this, and I really, really, really need to take the time to just use this palette more. And honestly, I could say that about all of my palettes. I really need to do an eyeshadow palette declutter. It's coming. I need to find time to film it before leaving for Christmas, which I do with everything. It's a struggle right now, but we're gonna get through it. I need to do a palette declutter because looking at my pile, I was trying to like go through my palettes to find for this video and like finding the palettes that I tried this year, and I realized there are so many palettes that I haven't even touched this year, and they just need to go because if I haven't touched them in a year, I probably will never touch them again. And being a YouTube review channel who mostly focus on eyeshadow palettes, I'm just gonna get a lot of new stuff into my collection, and it takes a lot for me to be impressed enough to reach for a palette over and over and over. And if I haven't done that, I just need to let them go. The next palette here this is such a cute palette, and it ended up very high in my ranking, my last whatever palettes I put this in. But this is the Pickle palette from Sugar Drizzle Cosmetics, and I felt like this just needed to be in the top of the year because number one, it's a pickle palette. Who else has done a pickle palette? Literally nobody. And I think that the theme of this is just so fun. And also the shadows are beautiful. Like, do you see a theme here? Like, there's been like a green shimmer in all of these palettes so far. I like green. Y'all know that. But I think this palette is just so cute and it performs so well. The shimmers are so beautiful. The mattes are really nice, and I'm so intrigued by this brand. I can't wait to try more from this brand. I did get this sent in PR, which I'm so thankful for because I didn't even really know it existed until this showed up in my mailbox. So super happy to have this. I think it's a great brand. I think it's a great palette. Would highly recommend you check it out. The next palette here is a palette that honestly had so much more hype on the internet that I felt like I expected from this. But it's also such a unique color story as well as a very well executed palette with a good theme to it. And this is the Meet Me in the Underworld palette from Lois. I always said that wrong. Lois Cosmetics. And here's what the palette looks like. It is such a cool grungy color story, and I'm so here for it. This palette is beautiful. I wouldn't say that the shimmers are like anything spectacular to write home about, but there's something about the combination between the colors of the mattes and the shimmers. And also just like the formulas of the shimmers go very nicely with the colors. Am I making any sense? Like, I just feel like this palette makes sense to me and it's very well done. And I think that it's just something that hasn't been done before. And a lot of these palettes are stuff that hasn't been done before because it's tough to stand out today in the makeup market, especially with eyeshadows, because literally every brand under the sun comes out with like at least 5 eyeshadow palettes a year, if not 30 if you're ColourPop, maybe even more than that. But you know what I mean? Like, if something is very unique, it's a lot easier for me to like be drawn to a palette because I have so many palettes that if it's not special, I'm just not going to reach for it. And I truly feel like that Lois Cosmetics palette is very special in my collection, and I cannot see myself decluttering that for many, many years to come. Next up, we're getting to the top 5 here, or technically top 10 of the year, if you want to call it that. But this is actually the only Glamlife palette that I have in my top of the year ranking this year, which is sort of surprising for me because I felt like last year there were 2 Glamlife palettes in the top 5. Could be wrong about that, but I just felt like the color stories that Glamlife came out with this year, they just didn't speak to me as much as the ones that came out last year. And I don't know why it just ended up this way. Listen, I love Glamlife's formula. I am affiliated with them, which I wouldn't be if I didn't. So I'm surprised that there weren't more Glamlife palettes in the top of the year, but just kind of how it ended up. So the palette that made it is the Dry Martini palette, and surprise, surprise, it's green. I don't think anybody was surprised. I think you're all like, of course, Annette. We knew that. We saw that coming. But here is the palette. If you haven't already seen it, this is a beautiful palette. I wouldn't necessarily just call it a green palette, though. That's the thing I like about it. It's not just a green monochromatic palette, because it has other colors in here. It has this teal down here. It has a brown here. You can do neutral looks. You can do more like blue looks. You can do green looks. And there's just a lot to this palette. And I feel like for being a monochromatic green palette, like it's more than that, and I appreciate that. And also the formula is just really nice. I love Glamlife's mattes and shimmers. I never have any problems with them, and I think that this is just a really, really fun palette, and I really enjoyed working with it. Next up is a palette from Beauty Bay, and I'm gonna leave you hanging on whether or not the Wilderness palette is going to make it into this or the top 5. But for now, I want to talk about the Age of Opulence palette. This is their newest palette. It's the holiday palette that they came out with. And honestly, I have been so impressed by the Beauty Bay formula. And Beauty Bay was on my list of brands that I wanted to try in 2021. And damn, am I happy I did, because they have blown it out of the water for me. I will say that I have heard some people say that they struggle with the mattes from Beauty Bay and they're not their favorites. I would recommend going dark to light with this formula, but when you do, they are so intense and rich and pigmented that I don't even care. Like if there's a formula that I need to go dark to light with in order to like really make it work, they do build, but I would be a little bit cautious about building too many shades on top of each other, but that is just me. But if there is a formula like that, it needs to have punch. Like it really needs to have punch, and I feel like this palette does. And the shimmers are beautiful. My only complaint with this is that I said that in my review as well after doing my 3-look video. These two shades here do have quite a bit of fallout on me personally during the day, but I also do have hooded eyes, and so sometimes black-based shimmers will do that to me. They cause quite a bit of fallout, and it's the kind of fallout that kind of just like ends up on my face and is hard to wipe away. So I'm going to kind of look at this palette without these two shades in it, even though they're beautiful. I can use a little bit of it like on the outer part. I don't want to put them all on my lid because it's just glitter everywhere if I do. But the rest of this palette is so beautiful. The colors are, I love the color story. It's so kind of Christmassy, and I love jewel tones. Jewel tones, colorful shades just make me so incredibly happy. I don't need light shades to go with this. I think this is perfect the way it is. You guys know I'm not a transition shade kind of person, so if I have like medium depth colorful shades, it's all I need. Medium and dark shades, all I need. I absolutely love it. The next palette is a palette that is beautiful, but I feel like the reason it didn't end up higher is because of how fragile it is, which makes me really sad. And this is the Glaminatrix You Beauty palette. I did get this sent in PR, and it's such a freaking beautiful palette, but this one came a little bit shattered for me, and I had to kind of press it back into the pan. This one I've had to kind of like press back into the pan as well, because it cracks a little bit, and it's just, you have to be so careful with these shadows that it makes me not want to use it as much, because I'm worried that I'm going to like drop it or something. Because I feel like if I do, like that's it, like this palette is done. So I have to be really careful with this palette, which makes me so sad because the shades in here are just beautiful. I mean, look at that. It's one of my favorite one of my favorite eyeshadows that's in a palette is the shade here. It is stunning. And the mattes are so nice, and I love this palette. It's so pretty. But yeah, it's just very fragile, and it makes me like scared to use it. Like even the shade I've had to like really press back into the pan because it was so loosely packed that it was like almost falling out of the pan, which it's a little bit sad, but it's still a beautiful palette, and I do need to just suck it up and use it more because I have it and I want to get use out of it, but I'm scared of breaking it. Let's move into, I guess, the number 6 and 5 spot. Wait, no, that's not what I meant to say, because I have 5 other ones that I need. So these are from, this is so confusing. I've literally said the wrong thing the whole video. So these are my number 15 to 11. No, 15 to 6. I need more coffee. You know what I'm trying to say. This is the top 2 before we get to the top 5. Oh my god. Okay, so we actually have 2 Odenside palettes in the number 7 and the number 6 spot. So in the number 7 spot is going to be the Earth palette. This palette is stunning. This color story is so fun. I love this palette. I love the size of this palette, and I am going to definitely bring this when I go on my vacation to Norway because this palette is beautiful and I cannot wait to do some kind of a Christmas look with this because it's gonna end up just stunning. I know it already. I love this palette. The shimmers in this are spectacular. I love these split pans from Odenside. I love this green shimmer. They're just, it's like the perfect Christmas winter palette. I don't know, I love this. I think they did such a good job with this color story, and I also just, I love the packaging. Like, this is just so fun. So the next palette that ended up, this was so close to ending up in my top 5 of the year, but I just felt like the other ones just spoke to me just a little bit more. And when I thought about which palettes would I love to do a separate video with again, those were the palettes that kind of made the cut, and I felt like I'd kind of, not that I'd made enough content with this palette, but I just felt like the other ones deserved a little bit more love than what they've gotten. So this is the Norns palette, and I love this palette. I think this color story is so fun, and this bottom row of shimmers, and this shimmer, do I have anything on my fingers? Let's see. This shimmer is so beautiful. It's like such a pretty inner corner shade. I love it. It's very similar to the one in the You Beauty palette actually, except for this one is more of like a sheer toppery formula, and the other one is more on the opaque side. But this palette, you guys, it just, these are so beautiful and so sparkly. I love Odenside shimmers. They just make my heart skip a beat, and this one is so beautiful and wet looking as well. And there's a black in here, which is really nice. I think the color story in this is just really fun. It's just fun. Like, it inspires me. I love that it has a lot of deep dark mattes, and together with these very bright shimmers and the duochrome, it's beautiful. I love this palette. So those were my, am I gonna say this right this time? Those were my from number 15 to number 6 best palettes of 2021. Before I go into the top 5, I would love to hear your thoughts. Which palettes do you think made it into my top 5? If any of you can guess my top 5, I will be very impressed. Last year, nobody guessed my top 5 in the correct order. Some had the right top 5, but nobody had it in the right order until the very end of December when I finally revealed my top 2. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Which palettes do you think are going to make it into my top 5? And I'm so excited to be playing with them again because it's just nice to be able to just focus a little bit more on like the palettes that I truly love and just show you guys that, you know, I really do have favorites. I do have favorites. My palettes are all of my babies, but I definitely do have my favorites, and I'm excited to share the top 5 of the year with you. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want to see some more ranking videos, here is my playlist. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.